Now, it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our Governor, Tate Reeves. You know, a lifelong Mississippian and fiscal conservative, he became the 65th governor in January of 2020. Now, prior to that, he served 8 years as lieutenant governor, where he really focused and worked with us on helping create a strong business climate by eliminating non-competitive taxes and increasing funding for workforce development. Since taking over as governor, his main goal still remains to increase the per capita income for all of Mississippi's citizens. But as all of us know, his time in the governor's mansion has not been routine. There have been unprecedented challenges that he has met head on. Shortly after he took office, Mississippi was hit with significant flooding and a tornado and hurricane, ice storm, and of course, all this was going on during COVID. But you know, while it was uncharted territory, Governor Reeves really focused on the safety of our citizens without ever losing sight of the importance of making sure that Mississippi's businesses could get back open and operate successfully. He established the Governor's Commission for Economic Recovery, which developed the Restart Mississippi plan, focusing on both relief and long-term goals. At the end of the day, it's all designed to make us prosper. Please join me in welcoming our Governor, Tate Reeves.
Thank you. Good morning. It's great to be back with y'all, and it's particularly great to be back with y'all in person. You know, I think we all missed last year, but it's great to be back to get some catfish here on the Mississippi State Fairgrounds. You know, I gotta be honest with y'all. Some of y'all probably say this is always the case, but I'm here today to give you a really boring speech. You know why it's boring? Because doing the right things and doing them well, that's just boring in today's politics. But I'm here to tell you, Mississippi is doing the right thing, and Mississippi is doing them well. Since the pandemic start, we've seen some very, very trying days. Days that have tested Mississippi's resolve and Mississippi's faith. Despite what was thrown our way, we outlasted. We overcame. We kept the faith. We charged forward, and we have found success. Trying days are certainly not unique to 2020 or 2021. Mississippi and these United States have been through tough times before, and we know we will go through tough times again. But no matter what hurdle is put in front of us, we will always persevere, and we will always push through. Since our founding, Mississippi and the United States have been through more good days than bad. Days that showed just how great our state is and just how great our country is. One of those days was July 20th, 1969. That day was not just great for the United States, but it was also a great day for human history. It was a day that proved that American ingenuity would always prevail over communism. It was a day that proved what our country can achieve when it sets its sights on a goal and trusts its people to accomplish the mission. On that day, one American uttered 11 words that will go down in the record books as one of the most powerful and meaningful statements of all time. And I quote, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." As you know, that American was Neil Armstrong. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what in the heck is the governor talking about? Why is he going to talk about Americans going to the moon? Or you may be saying to yourself, I think the governor may have had a little bit too much of that medical marijuana they keep talking about. For the record, I have not. medical or recreational. The reason I bring up Apollo 11 is because of this. The technology in this right here is 1,000,000 times more powerful than the computers on the Saturn V rocket that guided Neil Armstrong almost 240,000 miles to the moon. This right here represents unlimited knowledge in the palm of your hand. But to unleash its full potential and the full potential of other technology, like laptops and tablets and whatever the new technology is to come, we need one thing: broadband. After Apollo 11's successful voyage to the moon, Neil Armstrong called the flight, quote, a beginning of a new age. There's no doubt in my mind that if we expand access to broadband in Mississippi, it will begin a new age in Mississippi. In fact, you've heard me say it many times before. 200 years ago, people in America moved near waterways. 100 years ago in America, people moved near where the train tracks were. Today in America, people are moving where there is connectivity. And we as a state must recognize it and build on it. And we've started that process. The fact is, if we truly want our kids to be able to shoot for the stars, then they need access to the full breadth of all the technology has to offer. If we truly want our kids to reach their full potential, they need technology's full potential. If we truly want our kids to continue making gains in education, we need to ensure their technology is making gains. Our kids shouldn't have to live in a big city to have access to broadband. My mission is to make sure we continue to build and that we make sure that every kid that lives on a farm in New Holka has the same access to broadband as the kid who lives in New York. My mission is to make sure that no rural community is left behind because of its lack of access to broadband. By expanding Mississippians' access, our kids, and most importantly, all of our rural communities, are going to reach the stars and reach their full potential. But expanding broadband isn't just going to be a game changer for our kids in rural communities. It's also going to be a game changer for our businesses. Our industries that will be poised to thrive if we expand broadband is one of the backbones of Mississippi's economy: agriculture. Ensuring our farmers can use state-of-the-art technology, Mr. Commissioner, to tend to crops and livestock will be critical to our nation's food supply. If we can give our farmers access to broadband, they will be able to meet increasing food demand by using new techniques to, among other things, gauge soil quality, spray fertilizer, and monitor their equipment, crops, and livestock using real-time data. Increasing access to broadband will also benefit our healthcare industry. During the 2020 legislative session, I had the opportunity and the honor to approve House Bill 94, which established the Mississippi Center for Rural Health Innovation. The purpose of the center is to provide services and resources to rural hospitals, critical access hospitals, rural health clinics, and rural federally qualified health centers, FQHCs, including, among other things, broadening their telehealth investment. To have a successful telehealth network that delivers quality care that Mississippians need, we must make sure those same Mississippians have access to the technology and to broadband. I'm glad to say that we are starting to make progress in helping those who have not yet benefited from broadband's expansion. Working with the legislature, we allocated $75 million in CARES Act funding towards expansion and are working with experts in the industry across our state on a plan that will ensure an additional $162 million in the Capital Projects Fund are used effectively. And if Congress passes an infrastructure bill that allocates more funding to broadband, we will work to fight to make sure this funding goes to those projects that give us the best chance to expand access to broadband, not to individual politicians' pet projects. Now, what happens when we expand broadband? Who's going to maintain our broadband infrastructure? We must do everything in our power to ensure that Mississippi has access to a skilled labor pool capable of maintaining it. That's why I will continue to prioritize in my administration our state's workforce development efforts. Because expanding access to broadband alone isn't enough to put Mississippians on the path of economic prosperity. We must splice it with workforce training and workforce development. I'm proud of the fact that we worked with our legislative leaders, our Speaker, our Lieutenant Governor, and others to revamp our workforce efforts. And as we speak, because of that, my administration and Accelerate Mississippi are exploring ways to increase the number of fiber technicians in our state. Fiber technicians that have the skills needed to splice glass for broadband lines. But that's not it. We're also training our workforce in areas that will further shore up our supply chain needs. The supply chain crisis at the Port of LA and other places is certainly bad for our country, but it presents opportunity for Mississippi. Once your product is ready to ship, Mississippi must have the personnel that is available to get it to its final destination. Accelerate Mississippi is currently focusing, for instance, on commercial trucking. Through Operation Diesel Tech, we are working with our community colleges to train more diesel mechanics. We're also looking at existing partnerships that, if given additional resources, could increase the number of Mississippians with a CDL. The more diesel techs and commercial truck drivers we have in Mississippi, the more trucks that will be on the road to ease our supply chain crisis. In the approximately 6 months that Accelerate Mississippi has been operational, we've already made tremendous progress. Just last week, it was announced that Northeast Community College received approximately $1.1 million to increase their heavy equipment operation, transportation, and commercial trucking driving program by 150%. Northwest also received $997,000 to grow their Diesel Technology Academy from 12 students per class to 40 students per class. These are people that when they graduate, we know they're going to have what's most important, not only a degree, but a JOB. This is just the beginning, and there will be more to come. I'm committed to doing whatever it takes to continue to invest, to train our people for the jobs of the next 50 years, not the jobs of the last 50 years. And speaking of, it seems a lot of times when I post something to social media about our efforts to increase the number of commercial truck drivers, I receive a negative comment from somebody or some liberal troll. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think there's anything wrong with training people for a job that offers above average pay and excellent benefits. Truck drivers make good money and they get to live close to their family in places throughout our state. If the trolls, if President Biden, if the state of California's leadership spend half as much time encouraging blue-collar jobs instead of demeaning them, perhaps the supply chain crisis and situation off the Port of LA wouldn't be so bad. But to all those considering entering the commercial trucking industry or something similar, I want you to know that as long as I'm governor, my administration will always have your back. We will appreciate you. In fact, we will celebrate you and we will support you. And you can take that and your above average paycheck to the bank. Now, we're also working and taking steps to ensure that we retain our workforce. We are in the early stages of developing a program that will partner with our universities and community colleges to target those that have moved out of state and recruit them and encourage them to move back. I believe firmly that we can see significant economic growth in our state without population growth, but with population growth over the next 5 years. And I'm proud because of you and many others. 2020, for the first time in the last 8 years, we actually saw a net over net increase in population in Mississippi. 2020 was the first year since 2013. Our goal is to continue to work with our community colleges and our senior colleges to leverage their network and databases to educate those expats about the benefits of working in Mississippi. I also believe strongly that another way that we can keep our people in Mississippi and encourage those to move home and others to move to our state is to keep more of their money in their pockets. Our state is in the best fiscal shape we've ever been in, and our state is in the best financial shape we've ever been in. And I believe that the time is right for all of us to come together and eliminate our income tax. In 2020, in the middle of COVID, Mississippi saw approximately $1.9 billion in new capital investment. That's twice as much as the last 10 years average of some $900 million per year. We ended the year having collected over $1 billion more in revenue than was originally projected. In the first 3 months of this fiscal year, we've ended the first quarter having collected over $300 million more a year than we anticipated in those 3 months, averaging again over $100 million a month more than we budgeted against. I believe firmly that if we want to remain competitive for economic growth and economic development with states like Florida and Texas and Tennessee, then we must be willing to compete with them. If we want to increase the trajectory of Mississippi's economic growth, then we must eliminate the income tax. Now, the good news is the Speaker, the Lieutenant Governor, and I have all said publicly that we are for eliminating the income tax. Now, we've just got to come together and find a way on how we're going to do it. As I've said before, and as I've said, will say again, I believe that we can eliminate the income tax without raising taxes on other people. $1 billion in revenue collected last year alone. We're going to collect another $1 billion more, it appears, this year relative to last. And therefore, I believe we can, through revenue triggers and other avenues, we can eliminate the income tax, not swap it for raising other taxes. And if we do that, Peter and Paul will both have more money in their pockets. By eliminating the income tax, by not swapping it, Peter and Paul can both live in Mississippi, they can both work in Mississippi, and they can both raise a family in Mississippi. And by doing so, they can help grow our economy. It will lead to GDP growth, and ultimately, as business people, it will help grow your bottom line. My friends, it has been a great honor and a privilege to serve as your governor, although challenging throughout the last year and a half. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I want to continue to work to make Mississippi have the best business climate in America, which continues to attract and recruit new industry, new capital investment, and new jobs. Because what you and I know is that this is the best place in America to raise a family. It's also the best place in America to invest capital and create jobs. And we just got to keep working to convince more of our fellow Americans to look right here at home in Mississippi. Thank y'all, and God bless.